longtime friend and confidant Tom Barrack and billionaire Republican donor Steve Schwartz.
This is where we, the people, use squatter rights.
From the Center for Investigative Reporting, finalist for a Pulitzer Prize this year for his reporting on modern-day redlining. His new book, Homewreckers, comes out today. It's great to have you with us, Aaron. What an amazing book. Just lay out what you found.
Well, first of all, I wanted to know 8 million Americans lost their homes in the Great Recession. But they didn't just disappear, right? So we live now in a society where the wealth gap between the richest 1/10 of 1% and the other 90% is bigger than it's been in 100 years. And so much of Americans' wealth is in their homes because we have very few other ways to save. So I wanted to know what happened to these houses, who profited off this mess, and that trail led me to a number of people who were in Donald Trump's inner circle.
So talk about them and talk about how they benefited.
Well, we start with the crash itself and the failure of the banks.
Goldman Sachs, Bank of Saudi Arabia, Bank of America, as you know it.
We, the taxpayer, the government, subsidized those foreclosures. And there were a lot of people who lost money during that time, but there were also people who bet on these failed banks and received government support to foreclose. And that included, as you mentioned, Steve Mnuchin, who's now our Treasury Secretary. He and his group of other investors, including George Soros, John Paulson, Michael Dell, the founder of Dell Computer, came in and bought IndyMac Bank, which was this failed Pasadena, California bank, and then proceeded to foreclose on over 100,000 families, including 23,000 seniors. Now, under the deal that he made with the government to acquire this bank, which the government owned because it failed, he and his investors paid the government nothing. And then, although he invested some money in the bank, we then paid him to subsidize his foreclosures. And documents that I obtained under the Freedom of Information Act show that we paid his group more than $1 billion.
I want my fucking taxes back now from this fucked up KKK government.
Which was another failed bank in Florida.
And of course, IndyMac, as you show in your book, was really the first major bank to collapse, and then a series of others happened in 2008. And it was basically based on a lot of either fraudulent or predatory lending. If you could talk about that as well.
There were a lot of predatory loans going around in the housing bubble. And at this point, we all know that. What I wanted to know was when there were families who got these so-called ninja loans, right? No income, no job, no assets, no problem. Or these loans that had these teaser rates and then reset at a higher level. And you were told, oh, you can just refinance. Or the main character in my book, Sandy Jolly, whose family owned their home outside of Los Angeles for more than 30 years until they got a reverse mortgage that sapped their equity. And all of these families lost their homes to foreclosure. What I wanted to know was what happened after, right? We've been stuck in this country on this trauma of 2007, 2008, 2009. But now here we are in 2019. 10 years have passed. The unemployment rate is low. The president tells us everything is great, but people don't feel like everything is great. So, we have jobs, but what happened to our wealth? They took it. That's what happened.
And also,
they're going to prison.
The disproportionate impact that this loss of equity in all these homes had, especially on the African American and Latino communities, which were even more dependent on home equity for what little wealth they had, net wealth they had.
What we see is that banks like Steve Mnuchin's bank concentrated their foreclosures in communities of color. And then, when they started making loans again, when the economy improved, they didn't make loans to those communities. So they wiped out the wealth of these communities with foreclosure. But then, over a 5-year period, Steve Mnuchin's bank made 3 loans to help African Americans buy homes. And 11 loans. This is a national bank. Helped 3 African Americans and 11 Latinos buy homes over 5 years. And now, Steve Mnuchin, as the Treasury Secretary, is in charge in charge of regulating every American bank. And so he and Donald Trump
Not
picked
for long.
one of his deputies at One West Bank, Joseph Otting, for this position called Comptroller of the Currency, which basically is America's top bank cop, who's in charge of enforcing laws like the Community Reinvestment Act that are meant to stop redlining. So this bank, which didn't make any loans, hardly any, to communities of color, is now in charge, this leadership under President Trump, of making sure that these anti-redlining laws are followed.
And it seems to me it's not just the Trump administration, because it was under the Obama administration there were supposed to be some efforts to help homeowners stay in their homes. And in fact, Julian Castro, now a presidential candidate, was at HUD supposedly in charge of the efforts to assist homeowners, and that's come under heavy criticism. What the Obama administration did to help